Good evening. Welcome to the Monday, January 25th meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission. What's your pleasure regarding the minutes?
Motion approved.
Second. We've got a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. If you'd like to speak tonight, please fill in one of these slips that are on the desk over by Mark and Stephanie. And when it's your turn to speak, we'll call you forward, and everyone who signs in gets a chance to speak one time. And if somebody else says something that you already were thinking of saying, please say something else so that we can get all the information possible. Item number 1, we're going to move item number 3 up to item number 1, discussion and action on the request for a conditional use permit for a single-family dwelling in an office residential district located at 219 North Ashland Avenue.
Good evening, Council. Thank you.
I'll call you up when it's your turn to speak.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
They speak first and tell it all to us. And,
All right.
okay.
It's a learning process.
Get it for us too.
Hi. So we have a CUP request for single-family residence and office residential. Here we just have a quick aerial of the area. The area is predominantly all single-family homes. Here's the comp plan, which is calls for both a mixture of residential and 2 or 3 family residential as well. So it is, complements what the comp plan is calling for. Here you have the zoning, as you can see, kind of on the east side of the alley. We have all of that office residential zoning for several blocks, again, most of which is made up by single-family homes. West of the alley, we have the single-family zoning. So you can see it is a single-family area. The petitioner is just looking to add a half bath on the back of their home. Presently, it's a 2-story home. The bathroom's on the 2nd floor. Older couple would like to put a half bath on the 1st floor.
They're not that old.
Not that old. Young couple would like to add. So the staff recommends approval of the request.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, we do have somebody here to speak. And Mr. Ferry?
Okay. The primary reason that motivated us to want to put this half bath on the rear of our home is that both my wife and I, and contrary to his statement of being young, we're in our mid-60s, and the only bathroom we have is 2 flights up. And we both have type 2 diabetes, and the future, what they used to call the golden years, these things kind of catch up. It's not going to make it any easier for us. So that was the primary motivator for having a half bath put in downstairs for health reasons, future health reasons. So, yeah. Do you have any questions of me regarding construction or something like
Yes,
that?
Alderman.
I can't help this. You guys are just babies at 60-something.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, keep those future issues far in the future.
We come here for business and a mental massage.
Thank you. Thank you. And Alderman Zimmer, would you like to say anything?
No, I just, I think it's a perfectly normal request, and I'm just sorry it has to go through a process for something that simple, but the staff has handled it excellently, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.
I'm sorry, I have a delayed request. I need to ask about the dollar amount, $300 to file it. Are you familiar with that number, or is it really necessary?
It's the standard filing fee for conditional use permits.
Okay. It's just that I remember when I had my roof replaced, it was $50 for a permit, and that's a really big jump for like a 6-by-5 foot area.
I would ask call the planning office and ask them about that, because
Well, I think if the alderman would request it, it's waived, isn't it?
I've never heard that.
Oh.
Have you guys?
Not that I know of,
Just want
but
to check
we can
the
look
books.
into it.
But it's very unfair, It's one of these technical things. If you got a zoning change or whatever it is, it's $300. But that $300 is when they're really working some big plan or something. This is putting a half a bath in the 1st floor. You got to pay a $300. It's like a $300 fine. So if you'd be so pleased that if you could recommend that it be waived, we would appreciate that.
Is that an option, Kevin?
You know, just in terms of, I don't know if that's under the guise of the plan commission here, but if you would like to, you know, contact our office and just, you know, explain the hardship, that's something that we can take a look through in our policy. You know, I don't know what we waived before in the past, but I understand, I mean, the jump in the permit is for not the building materials itself, but the conditional use permit, and then that permit in itself carries, you know, a higher value with it. I do understand, given the situation, it's a small addition here, and it's not a major reuse of that, but if you would contact my office, and I can give you my card if you want to contact me directly, just send me an email, and then we'll go through and come up with a response.
Okay.
Would like to move approval?
Second.
So we've got a motion, a second to approve. Any other discussion?
I would
Yes.
ask, like to add
I'll
the
come.
caveat that they get back to the alderman with the explanation of why it's $300. I have suspicions that because it's probably plumbing, but I'm just kind of guessing.
Well, that's
No,
not
it's
the-
only because it's rezoning.
It's not the building permit
Oh,
fee.
it's rezoning?
This is just the fee for a CUP.
Okay, well, I think it's
Normally, a CUP is a big affair, you know, it's not just adding a bathroom to your house.
well, I think the alderman deserves a full explanation. of what
See,
it
this
is.
was all zoned to residential one day, but they changed it to residential office, so that it's like a non-conforming use here, or and it's just that what's ridiculous about the zoning is that, as the staff pointed out, everything's 1 and 2 family houses all the way through there. That's what it is.
What a mixture.
It's just something that I think really was done some years ago to try to prevent the subdivision of properties without going through the plan commission or something like that. But here you have a technicality that's, well, because it's asking for a conditional use permit to add a bathroom, they want $300. Well, it's really pretty excessive for this thing. We'll see if there's a way to waive it. Okay, we'll contact you, Mr. Rock.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're in the middle of the vote.
Do you have a card with you?
Yeah, I gave him one.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
Okay.
We're in the middle of the vote, so all in favor?
Thank you.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Say aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Okay, we'll return to item number 1. Discussion and action on the request for a conditional use permit for a 2-family use in a low-density residential zoning district located at 898 Shawano Avenue, submitted by Woben, and I don't know how to pronounce, Zhang?
Woben Zhang.
Zhang, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Property owner.
Thank you. So this request is coming through on an R1 district. As you might be aware, a conditional use permit is required for any 2-family uses. From the information that we've gathered, it looks like this unit was transferred to a 2-unit property either between 83 and 93. And we were just notified that of the status of a 2-family in the R1 residential zoning based on a complaint from our building inspector. So this area is predominantly single-family. Comprehensive plan calls for single-family in this area. Zoning is predominantly single-family in this area. Something to note, though, is the land use of this area. So this is the property in question that's already been converted and has maintained itself as a 2-family unit for quite some time. Everything you see here in pink is also 2-family. So that's why it's considered the conditional use in the R1 zoning district. Everything in white is single-family. Blue is parking lot areas, and then anything yellow is like a public use. So there's a fire station here, church here. This is West High School in this area. So it does have kind of a varied use depending on the residential uses. But again, this has been used as a 2-family for a number of years. It's just coming around to the technicality of getting the conditional use permit for the 2-family use here. So with that, we are recommending approval of this request subject to compliance with the building code, specifically that they need a second access or second exit on the second level apartment, which is what they were missing.
Thank you. Are there questions? Alderman?
I have one question for you. Has the neighborhood association, is there one right in that area or whatever, have they been notified about this?
I believe they were notified when letters went out to property owners. So that was a 200-foot notification based on the acreage of this parcel.
Is that the Port Howard neighborhood? I'm sorry.
Pardon me, I would like
We
to...
do have someone here from Port Howard neighborhood.
I would like to suggest that you always contact the presidents of neighborhood associations, don't depend on that mailing to get to them, and I thought we were at that point. So please do that.
Okay.
It is very important. Thank you.
And related to that, Your staff report notes that there was one objection from a representative of a neighbor within the area
Yes.
that you notified. Can you say anything about what that objection was, or is that person, that representative here?
As far as I know, they are not. It was a property owner who does not live at the property. It's a representative for that property owner.
Okay.
They just said they object to the use. No reason given.
Okay.
Thank you. Alderman Steuer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee? I agree with Alderman Wisbicki that, the neighborhood associations need to be contacted on this type of thing, this type of issue. I've got a problem with this only with the fact that this was converted, when did you say, in the mid-90s?
I think between 83 and 93.
And what was the process by which that happened? It seemed like it just sort of happened. Was there
From what I
any?
understand, that was a great era of two-family conversions out of single-family
So
homes.
there was no inspection, no planning, no oversight. I have an issue with that, So it's kind of like, if there was a mistake made, are we going to continue making that mistake? Even though it has been used, it's kind of like grandfathered in. I don't necessarily agree with that type of thought process. Zoning, one of the things that I have been looking at in Green Bay for quite some time is the fact that Green Bay, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but between rental and owner-occupied, it's a lot less than the national average. We have a lot of rental properties, and so you're going to put a two-family, even though there's some density here. I'm not comfortable with it. I did talk to Will Peters, who is the president of the Fort Howard Neighborhood Association. He talked to me at length on the phone. He said he is against it, so he could not make it because he had another meeting tonight. So there might be other reasons for it. I know in the past that we have been looking at opportunities to take two-family or multifamily and convert back toward a single family. I like that concept. I think we need to do more of that. And I'm not throwing this, I rented in the past as well, and I took care of property that I was on, but it's, when you're in an owner-occupied building, you're going to take care of it a lot better, I believe, than if it's a rental. So for that sake, unless there's other things that can be brought forward or other information that can be brought forward, on its face value, I am against it. I'm against this. So I'll listen to Mr. Zhang as well, and that's fine. It's open for everybody. But on those reasons, that's why I'm against it. Yes, Sydney?
Can you say a little bit more about the reasons for the president of the neighborhood association as well? Simply a matter of the density of the two-family uses?
He was leaning on that. He was leaning on the fact that, it's been a struggle and a battle to try to get the single-family homes as such, more owner-occupied. Granted, you can't do that all overnight, but if you do one here, one there, it's like anything else. Neighborhoods really hinge sometimes on one or two incidents, or one or two properties, or one or two items. And I'm just saying, this is an area in transition. And like I said, unless I can get other information toward this, I stand against it as it is.
And I have to press just one step further. Single-family and two-family either could be owner-occupied or not owner-occupied, and I'm not
That's
sure
true.
which it is that you're concerned with, the lack of an owner-occupant
Well,
among the two, or the fact that it is two-family.
yeah, I know what you're saying on that. There are times where an owner will live in a duplex on one side, and then another renter will be there.
Right.
And they'll generally take care of the property, and I have no problem with that either. I'm okay with that somewhat, but I think in this case, unless, Mr. Zhang can come up and talk about it, like the people that are living there now, are they still going to remain there? The same type renters, or what have you. I don't know. like I said, I'm not totally against rental properties because, you know, in this day and age, people aren't buying homes as much. I understand that there's a need for that. But I've seen over time that we have our apartment complexes and we have issues at times with police calls and all number of things that other situations that crop up because of the density. And I am very much, you know, of course I work with historic preservation as well, so we're looking at historic districts, we're looking at neighborhoods, we're looking at building styles, we're looking at, you know, a quality of life issue as well. I know that's hard to measure sometimes, but, you know, I think I'm looking at a little bit of a paradigm shift here as far as how we view, how we develop and how we move forward with situations like this.
Okay,
So.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question. Do we know if there have been police calls on this property?
I didn't look up police data on this.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Wisbisky.
I have the same problem with this also. I agree with the Alderman. I think I'm disturbed by the fact that this happened. And, started out so long ago, and nobody catches it. But, you know, it's a lot like all our ordinances. They're not enforced until somebody really actually breaks the ordinance. And I don't like that either, basically. But in this case here, I think I'll be very interested to see who's living there. I have suspicions that it's probably family. But it'd be
Well,
interesting to
and
see.
like I said, I'm more than willing to listen to all that.
I think that would soften the blow. However, two wrongs don't make a right.
And that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Yes, I agree with you. All right.
Thank you. Ms. Jane, would you like to speak? We'll need your name and address, please, because I don't have a sheet for you.
Okay, Wobin, W-O-B-I-N, Zhang, Z-H-A-N-G.
And where do you live, sir?
I live in by Lambeaufield, Aswapenen. And
I'll need your address, please.
oh, okay, it's 1498 Parkway Drive, Green
Thank you.
Bay 54304.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, just this gentleman said is kind of why I think, okay, couple response. One is when I bought it 5 years ago, and it was 2 family units, and since then the tenant lived there. It's called Paul Hightower is his name, and it's downstairs since then to now. And the upper changed a couple times, 2-3 times. But I don't have the police call here, but if you can check it online or something, it's very quiet over there. And just recently, why the city inspector go to went there inspection, because the guy probably he committed something like I don't know, but the city call and said the police call, and so they come over and say, oh, looks the stairway needed to open it to it's something like that, is to need a second exit. So that's why they come up to here to say, oh, need the second the 2-unit permit, and that's why I'm here now. And actually this house, I think is I can say huge. It's 2,200 square feet. Okay, and in that area is, you know, is kind of I'm not say I have to live there. You know, it's as business. You know, it's doesn't necessarily have to only occupy over there. I just for rent and keep my business. You know, I don't have to live there. But it's upper is 900 square feet, 900 something, and the lower 1,200 is totally separate and has stairs, and the basement also separate, everything, and you know the
It has separate utilities?
yes, and what I can say is just you know, it's and also I just a question is I'm not challenging others. It's kind of many, the property like this has 2 units or upper or lower, and even side by side, or even some 3 unit, 4 units. That's it's a kind of you don't need have to ask somebody have to buy it and live there. You know, it's kind of a situation in Green Bay area is this, and this area lots of unit for rent also. And if you get back, if you get back to one family, it's 2,300. I don't know who can afford it, at least as a utilities, and also you can see so many houses only maybe 800, 700, 600 square feet a house, single house. But now is this one. I kind of I don't know what to say, but yeah, I just want to keep it. And but if I have to, I know I have to compliance the city code or building code, something that is I can do. I would do that. And also if I don't, the city and won't let me rent anybody right now, you know. So I will make sure it's compliant with the code, just so I want. That's what I can say.
Thank you. Are there questions? Yes, Alderman.
How long have you owned this building?
I bought it 2010, April 2010, so almost 6 years now.
Okay. And when you bought it, it was a two-family basically, or? Was
Yeah,
it
two family, multi-family. I have even the sheet over there listing. I still keep in my file. So it's upper and lower. You can see the 21, 2200 square feet.
I've got a question for the planners here. Basically, when a house changes owners, aren't any of these things looked into? It sounds to me like somebody just kind of did a drive-by and saw that it was a two-story, two-person home, and now it's violating ordinance because it doesn't have a entrance and exit to the top story. Is that basically what's happened?
Well, on our prospect, the real estate agents don't have to contact the planning department to let us know that something's gone on the market. A lot of people do verify to see what the zoning is, but they're not required to by law. So they can list it as a two-family without it actually being a two-family, because we don't always have the inspection capabilities, our appraiser's office, the planning department itself, we're complaint-driven. So if somebody were to call to ask, that would give us a red flag. But beyond that, we don't have any other way to get that kind of information.
Now, in the past, when we have worked with two families, what has happened is that as long as the two families are occupied, they can continue to operate as two families. The only time that they have to change is if one or both of the units are no longer occupied for at least 1 year. I think that we're putting Mr. Zhang through undue stress right now. I believe that this is a two-family that he purchased as a two-family. It's being used as a two-family. I don't believe that legally we can ask him to change it to a single-family. As much as I would love to see every house in downtown Green Bay that is supposed to be a single-family, I don't think that we can ask that in this case. And I would actually not feel ethical in asking that at this case. This is how he purchased the place. It was a two-family being operated as one. It's not his fault that it was done in the 80s and not tracked.
And I would concur with your points, Mary Beth. What our staff has told us is that this has been used as a two-family for at least 20 years, possibly more. We don't know how long. We have faced these sorts of situations many times in the past, and my memory fits with yours as well, that it's only when we're in a situation where it's no longer occupied by two families for the full year period that we really have our hands untied to be able to move for the conversion. My one hesitation here is about police calls, and you've mentioned one that was fairly recent with one of your tenants. And if we have a property where there has been a record of frequent police calls, then I would have a different view of it. And I'm wondering if we shouldn't look into that and simply check out what the record has been, particularly over the 6 years that Mr. Zhang has owned the property. I'm inclined therefore to table this action until we have that information as well. But I am also concerned about putting this particular case through a tougher kind of filter than we have other cases like it over time. I do think Alderman Stoyer raises an issue that has also come up several times, and I want to underline that, and that's the issue of owner occupancy. We have had many situations where there have been issues about two-family homes where the neighbors have objected to that status, and they've objected to it largely because it was rented out and not occupied by the owner. And I'm wondering whether or not there is any way that we can address that distinction. I don't know legally whether there's any way. I suspect not, particularly
From
since
my
the state
experiences-
government is really pushing hard on
From
people
my
having
experiences,
property
you
rights.
cannot, through
Require.
land, because we are handling the land use side of it, determining what is an allowed use, and that can't bridge the gap then to
Okay,
occupancy.
okay, I appreciate having that information. So I would like to move to table this until we can have the information about police reports.
We do have a, would you
Yes.
like to say something, Kevin?
Sure, just, I mean, in reference to Mark's comment, I think in terms of, yeah, I mean, regulating the occupants,
Go ahead.
it's,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
I had a question for him.
Oh, you
Sure,
did?
yeah.
Okay.
You can go ahead and ask, and then I'll fill in.
Okay. I was wondering what your rental history looks like with the people who are in there. Do you have good solid renters that kind of stay in there and the
Oh,
same
yeah.
type of people, the same people actually renting it?
Yeah, the lowest since I bought it and moved in and until now, and the upper changed four times. Since. Yeah, and you know the next two buildings is a police station there.
And three?
Yeah, they even talk to, oh, this is so quiet here, and even there's no something happened, and since just 1 month ago, last December and they called, said, oh, this guy looks something weird, and so they came and the police came that day and meet me and said, oh, we don't know just what, but they're very quiet. And you know, I know that I own 6 years, almost 6 years, 5 years, something, and they've been quiet, and it's good, and it's there. And I rent separate is also good rent. Like I said, if you change to one single room, I don't know who can afford it. It's big, and you know, it's a very nice house.
Have you ever occupied it yourself? No.
I bought even some others also just for rent. You know, I live in Aswan and
You just bought it as an investment property?
Yes,
basically.
yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we return to regular order of business.
Mark wants to speak to you.
I just wanted to make another point, if I could. I've talked to a number of citizens along Allard, or along that stretch, and there's two things here. You know, when you have a rental property, you know, if you get new tenants in, you could have 2 people there, you could have 6 people there, you know, whatever, you know, so I guess I'd like to know how many folks are living in that property. That's one point. The second point would be Allard is, I won't say a speedway, but it's a bit of a connecting point between Shawano and Dousman. So you get a lot of traffic along that stretch, and that's a concern as well, along with police calls. So I agree with Commissioner Bremer on that we should, you know, look at that as well.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Gilbert.
This is for Mark. Mark, what is the limit for residents in a rental unit?
What do you mean?
No, is there
A
limit?
time frame?
No, a limit as far as how many residents can be in a rental unit.
I believe it goes under the definition of family. So there's not necessarily a number of people if they're all related by blood adoption marriage. I don't believe there's a cap. If they're unrelated individuals, I don't know if our ordinance specifies a certain number or not.
believe it does, I don't remember what that number is.
Okay, so what would be the point of getting the number of people living there?
What was that?
What would be the point of getting the number of people living there if it's a family?
Well, maybe that's not for this discussion. I guess maybe I overstepped on that, but I'll leave it alone.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you. Kevin?
Yeah, just to the points on occupancy in terms of, the requirement for owner occupancy, in terms of doing that through our code or the land use designations, I mean, that's not something that we can go down in terms of saying a renter or the owner has to live or occupy the other unit. There are some options, when you have a CUP, I mean, you can look at things and making that decision on the CUP, and like we've done for some of the TRPs, whether the owner lives in the other half of the rental unit, I mean, it's something to consider. And in this case, you can consider that as part of the CUP. With that, just some context, just to provide in terms of rental units. Overall, in our city, there's about 42,400 units, housing units, actual units, places to live. 42% of those are rental. Now, most of those are in apartment complexes. If you take a look at single-family, more or less, or detached homes, the one unit or the detached homes, there's about 25,200 homes in our city, and of that, 2,800 or about 11% are rental. So if you look at homes like this and homes in this neighborhood here, now it varies by neighborhood, but overall, land use wise, about 11% are renter occupied. So just in terms of just some context of where we're at in the community right now.
Thank you. Did you want to speak, Lisa?
Do you want me to speak on behalf of Fort Howard Neighborhood Association?
Sure. We'll need your name and address, please.
Sure. I'm Lisa Hansen, 708 Kellogg Street. I'm the Vice President of Fort Howard Neighborhood Association. I come at this twofold. I'm an owner-occupier in a duplex that was built as a duplex. But if I had bought a property 5-6 years ago and then was told that now it's going back to a single family when it has separate utilities, I would definitely find that as an undue hardship. The occupancy rate in our city for rentals, the vacancy rate is incredibly low, and a lot of people are renting more than buying. So rentals, they're pretty full, and people are always looking. When mine upstairs is vacant, it goes quickly, and as far as the neighborhood goes, it's been a two-family for 20 to 30 years. I guess I personally don't have a problem with it. I guess I don't know what my official Fort Howard neighborhood is. I haven't talked with Will. I didn't know that we should be talking about this. So I don't have an opinion on it as far as a neighborhood association member. But as a landlord and as someone who lives in the area, that I'm surrounded by rentals as well, I don't see it as a problem as long as it is up to code for being a rental property. It needs to have the 2 exits, whatever else needs to be done to have it be legally a two-family. I guess that's my opinion on it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a motion on the floor to table this until we can get the information about the police calls.
I'll second the motion.
I actually disagree because it has been a two-family for so long, and I don't see a reason to do that. I don't think that this is up for, if it has too many police calls, we're not going to let it continue, for the same reason that I said that we normally don't convert these unless they've been empty for a year. Now, I don't know legally if we can. Is that something that anyone knows? Can we legally have these converted back to a single family because of police calls based on that and nothing else?
It's just about getting too legal. The question at hand here is whether or not to grant the CUP, and in terms of the information you're taking to grant the CUP, I mean, you have a choice whether or not to grant it, and there is a process for appealing if the applicant feels like that was unjustly denied. But I mean, it's up to you in terms of, you know, taking the facts and looking at, you know, if you have a precedent of granting these based on certain policy. I mean, we've looked at things with TRPs and just kind of precedent in every case, balancing the precedent with every case on its own merits. And I guess the facts before you here, that's, you know, the decision that you're making in this case.
Okay. All right, yes, Alderman?
We're not actually denying this, we're asking for more information to make a good, solid opinion basically on yay or nay on this one. I don't understand why we can't have what we're asking for and go through that process. And I think we already had a motion on the table and approved and to head in that direction, and regardless of what the thoughts are for or against it, I think this committee is actually, the commission basically is entitled to the information that we ask to make a good, sound, justified decision.
Yes, Commissioner Gilbert.
I agree with your point that, I don't know that that's I think it's gonna come back in 2 weeks or so that the police report is not a major concern and we're gonna end up okaying it at that time. But the motion and second to table, I can live with, so. I'm agreeable with that.
Okay. So we've got a motion, a second to table, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So this will, no, this is tabled, so it will not go to city council.
Right.
And it'll come back here then, and probably in 2 weeks?
And just to verify, we only want police report information for the next meeting?
Thank you. Thank you for coming in. He's got some of his documents. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, item number 2, discussion and action on the request to amend a previously approved planned unit development to modify the existing permitted uses for Unit B from condominium units to passive commercial for a farmery located at 813 Chicago Street.
Okay, so this is part of the NeighborWorks PUD on Chicago Street. Originally, this is the old Armory building. The original PUD called out for 10 or less condominiums be placed in that unit, or in that building. Project never got rolling. They were never able to come up with the capital to do that project. So quite a few years later, we're now coming back looking to amend that PUD for a farmery use. I'll give a brief description of the farmery, then we'll let the petitioner give a much better description of it. It's basically an indoor agricultural use with a lot of education-based uses. It's probably the simplest way I can try to explain it. And then we'll let the petitioner give a little more eloquent explanation of a farmery. Comprehensive plan for the area. It's broken into a bunch of different uses for that area, kind of resulting in why the original area was done as a PUD. From a zoning, there is some commercial zoning underlying the PUD and residential underlying it, but again, it was a rezoned PUD over that for the different uses within the NeighborWorks project. Request does come to you with a favorable recommendation for approving the request. Staff kind of views it as a unique adaptation of an old armory building and should benefit the area. Answer any questions?
That
That's
looks
it.
pretty exciting to me. Commissioner Brammer?
This is to modify the existing permitted uses from condominium units to passive commercial.
Correct.
Passive commercial is not a phrase that I'm used to running into. What can you tell me about that?
I guess it's more for the agricultural use, how it's passive commercial. They do want to have a small retail component in the front where they may sell some of the products grown on site. So it is a commercial venture. And the passive is more of reflecting that, there's not an active commercial business going on there. They're not, they're not building something or like that nature.
Okay. And I was curious too about the parking under the PUD.
Yes.
On page 3, the first paragraph refers to the parking described as in Unit A above. And then again on page 6, I'm curious, is the parking there are 3 different units here in this PUD. Is the parking for each unit within that unit, or is there some shared parking?
There's some share, but again, the petitioner can probably better describe that.
Okay.
What they're proposing is to kind of mirror the parking lot that's on Unit A area on B, which is approximately 15 spaces.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you. We do have Noel Halverson here. Suspend the rules.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the commission. Would it be possible to go back to the aerial? I'll just point out what we're looking at here. So the NeighborWorks offices are in this portion of the building here. This is a 2-story commercial building for lease. We own this. A number of problem properties were torn down. This is off-street parking that service this commercial, as well as this parking strip here and this strip back here. We're looking as part of this. There's currently just gravel and dirt in front of this building. We'd be putting like angle parking along the edge of that building as part of this as well. But that building was built in the 20s. It's a 20,000 square foot monstrosity with a 14-inch concrete floor between the first and second levels. One of the things that the staff had asked us as they were working on this is how come we never developed it as condominiums? And one of the challenges was when we looked at the penetrations for staircases and mechanical chases and all those things through 14 inches of concrete times 10 units, the budget just was out of whack. And it was an unfortunate, development, but one that, we've contended with in a number of different ways and a number of different development partners over the years trying to make something happen. But now we've found a use where actually 14-inch thick floors helps us out. We can put some equipment in there and we can grow food in there. And the vision is that this building will be filled with grow systems and that community members will engage in that facility, learn the farming process, help in the production of food that's then wholesaled or sold and in the community, adding to good quality food choices for all of us, but then also learning that operation and earning access to, say, scholarships to entrepreneurial training programs at NWTC, the eHub entrepreneurial training program, which is located in our office building, and there are partners with us, as well as other sorts of community things that can either help improve employability or start a new career. And so that's a facet of what we're working on there. We've got a board of directors working with us, probably a world leader in urban farming, Will Allen from Growing Power in Milwaukee is one of our board members. We're taking a lot of what he's learned over decades of indoor farming and applying it to the development of our systems here in this building, which we're anxious to get going, but we do need to address this, the PUD on this. But we're excited to be doing this. We think it'll be a great addition to this neighborhood, and this building, which has been languishing for decades, will come back to life. And we think that that'll be a nice asset in the community as well.
Other questions? Commissioner Berlin?
Bravo, bravo. And you've got wonderful partners. Just one other question of fact, having to do again with parking. I'm not usually that focused on parking, but you note that there's to be indoor parking for a maintenance vehicle. And
Right.
that's a maintenance vehicle just for that one location?
Yeah, so actually, the NeighborWorks has a number of properties scattered throughout the community, and we also have a service where we're in partnership with Brown County right now doing housing quality inspections for owner-occupied homes to get rehab loans. And so we've got a vehicle that we use for that drives kind of all around the region. We would be putting there's currently an overhead door on the lower level of that building that would be used for bringing material in for the farmery project and shipping it out. We would cut one more overhead door into that building, and that would be the garage for our service vehicle, our maintenance vehicle.
So it'd be a garage basically for Neighbor Works and the
Right,
associated.
yeah, we're going to carve out basically 1/20th of that, or 1/10th of that building for a workshop for us, and that's just a minor part of it, but, and you mentioned partnerships, I would like to add too, and I think Kevin will probably mention this in a moment, but we have been working with the city in a number of capacities on this. This project was the beneficiary of a U.S. Conference of Mayors grant in cooperation with Wells Fargo this past summer in support of this project, one of only 3 grants given across the country. I think 6 grants, I'm sorry, given across the country. And we've had a number of supporting partners in the community as well, and we're going to be looking for many more to bring this project to reality.
What's a greenhouse roof?
What's that?
What's a greenhouse roof?
So one of the design elements we're looking at would be to remove the roof slabs, which are actually kind of like an early form of spancrete. They're like a concrete slab, and taking some of those off and then just putting a polycarbonate window roof over that to get sunlight down onto the second floor where the plants are going to be growing.
Okay.
So.
Yes, Alderman Wisbisky.
I re-echo the bravo. I think you guys are great. You really rock with everything you get involved in, and this is a classic example of the work that you've done for the city. And
Thank you, sir.
take this great old building and turn it into something so valuable is just fantastic. The only thing that I heard that I'm concerned about is the parking this vehicle. Are you making a separate garage for that vehicle? And
Yes.
It's all fireproof? And
Yeah, it would be a separate walled-off section that would be just for the
any
vehicle.
ventilation required or anything like that?
We would certainly be addressing any compliance issues with that. I think right now, we're not at a point, we're still working with, I don't know if anybody's got any specific questions about the design.
Yeah.
We're still working with SMET to come up with the plans for the building, so it's going to be some months out, but I'm sure we'll be working with staff to get the appropriate approvals and permits to make this all come together.
Fantastic.
Wonderful. Any other questions?
Mark has a question.
Yes, Alderman Stoyer.
Yes, Noel, this is for you. This is in the Navarino area, correct?
Yes.
So it would be more advisory or voluntary on your part, but has there been any thought of at least talking to the Historic Preservation Commission on something like this? Or is that, you don't have to, but what I'm just stating that there might be some thoughts, some people might come up with some things that
Yeah,
it could help or hinder.
Sure. We've actually
So I'm
had,
just asking.
yeah, I appreciate that, Alderman Stoyer. We've had a number of conversations with folks who are, I think fans of old buildings as well as in different roles. Our renovations of the building across the parking lot was recognized in part by the Historic Preservation Commission some years ago for generally the work that we do in renovating properties, which we always try to do respectful of the character of the original structure. Work with this building is included a lot of exploration and research of the history of it. We've got photos of soldiers standing, fingertip to fingertip and doing calisthenics in there and pulling a cannon out of the lower level and some things like that. There are no armaments in the building anymore, but so some of that, we're certainly sensitive to that, and we want to reopen all the windows that have been boarded up over the years and make that building live again. I would note too, Mark mentioned the Neighborhood Association. We have spoken with Navarino. I've been an officer of the Navarino Neighborhood Association Board over the years and was one of its founders, and I live just a couple blocks away from here. So we've been in regular communications with the association. I met with them in October of last year, and the board, stated their approval for the project and their support of the renovations of the structure. So I'm happy to continue to work with everybody to make sure this building is a success.
I would add to that it sounds like it would be very much within the character of the way Neighbor works for you to talk with the Historic Preservation Society, and I would certainly urge you to do so.
Yeah, and like I said, we're looking for partners to work with us on making this project success. So, and we're hopefully going to be having in mid-February a public call for the community to come and get involved and share their insights and ideas so that together we can build a really great facility.
I'll be a little more pointed then. Is it within the compass of what you intend to do that you will be talking to the Historic Preservation?
We'd love to have you.
Sure.
We got you
I
double
mean, if
teamed.
nothing else, I think it's a good public relations
Yeah.
move, if nothing else.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm regularly going on the stump with this project, so I would be happy to speak with that group as well and get any thoughts that they have on the project.
Okay. We'll get you in.
But would prefer not to have that be a condition of your action this evening.
And I was not offering it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And did anyone else in your group want to speak? We've got a couple of other names on here.
No, I don't think so.
We do not.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be short.
Come on up and state your name and your address, please.
Sure. My name is Joshua Schwalbe, 1216 Cherry Street. I put some time into volunteering for the NeighborWorks project on the Farmery. I can tell you, in my working with them, they're very motivated, and this is a project that's already in the works. So it's not a concept that we think would be a good use for the building. I personally put some time into it, and from what I've seen inside the office, this is a project that will happen if the zoning is changed. So I would support it, and I'll work as hard as I can to make sure that it comes to fruition. So thank you.
Unified effort in business.
Return to regular order of business.
Motion approved.
Second that motion with thanks for the remediation already done.
So we've got a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Now this will go to city council, I take it. And that will be when?
Further second of February.
Leave a second.
Okay. Item number 4, discussion and action on the request to deviate from section 14-727 of the subdivision and plating ordinance to allow for a land division to not be located on a public street for a parcel currently addressed at 1609 Western Avenue, submitted by Steve Dita, Mao and Associates.
Thank you. This property you might all be familiar with. We're looking at right now. This is Military Avenue, this is the Strip Center. This is H.J. Martin & Son. They also have their commercial center right up in this area here. So what they're looking to do is to get a variance for a CSM that they had submitted. The original property used to have 2 separate lots. So lot 1, lot 2. Lot 2 obviously does not abut any sort of a public right-of-way. This was allowed by code. Once the code had changed, this became a legal non-conforming lot division. I guess that would be the easiest way to say it. They have come back and they want to, I'm sorry, I misspoke there. So what they had done originally was combine those 2 lots. So it became one contiguous lot with one building on it. It had always had one building on it. It had just been divided off as 2 lots. So in 2011, they had this lot combined. Since then, they've had some mortgaging issues between the 2 businesses that both are in this building. So they came back to us asking for a further lot division. Now that our code specifically states that it has to abut a public right-of-way, this would be not allowed by our code. So they are looking for a variance with this. In your report, it does list all our regulations for allowing a variance to our code here. A lot of them have to do with the physical nature of the land, making sure it's in the general experience and intent of the ordinance as it's written. Staff is recommending denial of this request due to the fact that there is no public frontage. Having this separate lots does not have anything to do with their business, anything to do with the community. It does not harm their ability to complete business as it stands, considering that the building has always occupied 2 businesses, will always occupy 2 businesses. There is still access into the lot. They do have an egress easement. But this would go against the nature of the code, as we do like to have all lots would be abutting public right-of-way for safety, access, and continuity within the entirety of the city. So we are recommending denial of the request.
Thank you. Are there questions?
I appreciate particularly you're saying, Stephanie, that there's no advantage to the business of having it either separate or connected. And I understand the code nature of the ingress egress. But is there any advantage to the city in having it be a single as opposed to a double lot?
Yes, to have the single lot would verify that everything would have frontage on Western Avenue. So you'd still be able to access the business, but on the city side, it would conform with our ordinance to state that it has to be against a public right-of-way. So in the future, if there were to be any differences, if this were to be divided, the two lots, they do have that easement in place, but that's not as strong as having a public right-of-way, because easements are open to interpretation, they're open to legal battles, and that would defer any access to Lot 2 if that ingress easement were to go away in the future.
Okay, thank you. That's exactly what I needed to hear. Thank you.
Just clarification, in other words, if in fact that they had two businesses there, this one business would always go across the other business's property to get in and out of the business.
Yes, so they have the easement
That's
to
a
get
nice-
access, but it would be their property still. Lot 1 would have the majority of that property.
Okay, good call on this one, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. And do we have the petitioner here tonight? Alderman Wisniewski.
I would make a motion to deny. Second. I have been involved in a lot of properties and usages, and just recently, basically, where people have been using different properties and stuff for entrance and egress and whatever, basically, and can be a real big bag of worms to have somebody going across somebody else's property, and it does come back to the old law, basically, and if you had it for 10 or 40 years, that you actually own it. That even gets to be a bigger mess, so I would definitely ask for support to deny this one.
Thank you. We've got a motion, a second to deny. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item number 5, discussion and action on the recommendations of the mayor for 2016 Business Improvement District Board member for On Broadway Inc.
Thank you. With this is just in accordance with what we're trying to get going with the bid board. The Economic Development Department, they typically are the lead on these sorts of things, getting recommendations from the mayor, but we do want to incorporate the Plan Commission on these because you do approve their annual plans. So as they become available, we do take them here for approval of the appointment. So they do have one appointment for our Broadway bid for Brent Peters. As you see in your packets, Rachel Sawinski, who is the bid board president, she had recommended that he be nominated for this position. So that, along with his resume, she gave you information that we think that he has the qualifications necessary to sit on the bid board. So we are recommending approval of his appointment.
Thank you. Other questions? And is he here tonight?
I'm impressed that his credentials do in fact seem very much in keeping with what he would need to do, and that he's been generous in offering his time and talents already to Broadway Bid, so I would move approval.
Second.
So we've got a motion, a second. Alderman Wisniewski.
There is a dire need for somebody to take this position and run with it too. I mean, it's just been bouncing all over the place. And it looks to me, I agree with what Sid said about credentials and everything, so I would be for it.
Is this the position to head the board up, or is this a board position?
Just a board member.
Okay.
The next step, I would hope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, and aye for me too. Director's update.
Update on council actions. From the last Plan Commission meeting, council met on January 18th and unanimously approved all of the items on the report. The request from Alderman Stoyer about ped bike safety to refer to staff to rezone the portion of 2607 Nicolay Drive. That was for the bed and breakfast or hotel and the adjacent properties to rezone those. So that then also, first reading accompanied that. That was moved to third reading. Approving the CUP for Noble Roots Brewery at 2790 University Avenue, subject to the conditions listed. And then also approving a CUP for the detached accessory building. That was at 1660 West Mason. That was the container, shipping container outside of, in competition. Yep. So all of those were approved. Also, another matter that came before here, the EDA had made a recommendation to rezone those 28 acres out on Mason Street and Erie Road, that parcel. And that rezoning did result in an offer to purchase that property, 13 acres of it with an option on the rest. And so we did, through the EDA, negotiate acceptance of that offer. So we'll be moving forward, hopefully with the development project sometime later this spring.
Thank you. That's it.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion, second to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Would have been quiet.